All right, let's try to save this underexposed photo. We're going to try to save it using dynamic range. Essentially, dynamic range is the full amount of detail your camera's sensor can capture in the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows, the full spectrum of light. And we can only accomplish this while shooting in RAW. In this instance, I'm using a Nikon Z6. The RAW file is .nef. I also could have dropped my shutter speed up to my ISO and had my camera settings a little bit better for the environment. But it was late in the day, my clients were late, we were chasing sunlight, and I didn't have my flash. Only other way to save the photo is to use a flash. You expose for the background, have your subjects pose the way they want, set your flash power, and bang, and shoot. It's photography 101. This instance, I didn't have the time nor the gear. So I am here fixing my own mistakes, and I'm going to show you how. But basically, dynamic range is the amount of information your sensor can capture. Every bit of dark areas, light areas, shadowy areas, everything. The greater the dynamic range, the more options you have. Now, you have to know your gear when you do this. It means taking many shots, many photos, many tests, underexposed, overexposed. I know my gear, and I've taken thousands of photographs. I know I can shoot underexposed and recover the detail and light with dynamic range. You can always recover some detail when underexposed, but if you overexpose it and it blows out the highlights, blows out the light, you can't really recover that. That information is just gone. It's too much for the sensor to capture. So we're going to try and save this photo. The first thing I'm going to do is level this out. This bugs me. It's a little bit off center. So I'm going to crop overlay and just rotate it. That looks good. You can see the line there across the wheat field. Double click and apply it. Now we can begin the recovery. First thing I like to do is I kind of like Nikon's color science. I change it, my profile to camera portrait. So the default is Adobe Color. It's just the Adobe default, what it thinks the color sciences should be based on its algorithm. The camera portrait. Next, I'm going to go scroll down and I'm going to enable profile corrections. I'm going to find my camera and it automatically adds my lens. And now I'm ready to go. See, it's already even brightened our image a little bit. So the first thing we're going to try to do, just raise our exposure. And that's brought some of it back. It's still muted, but it's brought a lot of it back. All right, what about raising the highlights? That's pretty good. What about lowering them? Lowering the highlights sometimes can recover details. And we're going to lift the shadows. Now we're going to add a little bit of contrast. Now our detail's coming back. Awesome. And it's also looking a little cool. So we're going to warm it up just slightly. There we go. Add some texture. Give that micro contrast a little bit of workout. A little bit of clarity. We're going to drop the... Ooh. Dehaze has a major effect on it. We'll increase the dehaze just ever so slightly. Vibrance and saturation essentially do the same thing, but vibrance is a little bit more muted, and you can play around with it and see which one you like better. But I usually do vibrance first, a little bit of color, and just every little bit of saturation. Now we got a lot of greens going on here. There we go. That's for our basic edits. Getting a lot of detail back now. Tone curve. Everybody kind of does the basic kind of S curve, and that's a good standing point. But you always got to experiment. I usually like lifting the blacks just a little bit, give it a nice matte look, and then drop the blacks down a little bit more. So that's on, off, on, off. It's darkened our image a little bit, but we can kind of bring that back again, playing with the tone curve. I'm not going to really mess with the color mixer right now, but I am going to start working on the midtones. So we've got, according to our histogram, we've got a lot of shadows going on and some whites. More than likely those whites are their clothes. So let's see what happens when we warm up the shadows. All right. Midtones, we're going to warm that skin up a little bit. And then highlights, we're going to cool it off. How does that look? Not truly happy with it. So let's switch it up. We'll warm up the highlights and cool off the shadows. Increase our midtones a little bit. So check our before and after, before and after. I think we can go a little bit more with our highlights. So again, this is where we started. This is where we're at now. We're getting there. We're getting there. And one thing I like to do is add a little bit of vignetting. Just kind of focus our eyes in. And down here at the blue primary, if you really want your colors to pop, find the blue hue primary saturation and just boost that a little bit. Kind of wakes your colors up just a little bit. So now we're going to work on our subjects a little bit. We're going to use Lightroom's AI tools. Let it find the people. Continue. I'm going to create them a mask. We can name it. And I'm also going to create another mask. I'll select the background. So what I like to do is kind of lower the exposure of the background, do a couple adjustments. We're going to warm it up just a little bit. Saturation just a little bit. Bring the texture down and dehaze up a little bit more. All right. Now for the people, we're going to just up the exposure just a little bit more. Now they're popping out. Up the contrast. We're going to lower the blacks just ever so little bit and up the whites. So now they're looking pretty good, but they're not exactly looking natural. Some of that does have to do with our color grading. They got this nice glow about them, but we don't want them to look orange. Yeah, we want to keep that glow. So we want to create a new mask, select people. Select them both. I'm going to do facial skin and body skin. Create the mask. In an earlier video, I showed you how to cool them off. We're going to do the same thing here. Bring down the contrast just a little bit. Increase the highlights. Bring down the saturation just a little bit. There we go. They got a nice glow about them, but they don't look as orange. Before and after. Before and after. So dynamic range, you can recover so much detail. The world is your playground when you shoot raw. You can make it look any way you want to. I usually like to add a little bit of a radiant mask. Kind of gives our subjects a little bit of focus. I'm going to invert it. Adjust it down a little bit more. And add one more little linear gradient at the bottom. Fade that in a lot. exposure, lower the texture. That's a pretty good start. So we've saved our couple, and we're on our way to making a great photo. So trust your gear, get out there and shoot photographs, make mistakes, learn from them, play around with dynamic range. Remember, but you can't save an overexposed photo. So I like to shoot slightly underexposed. We can always raise the exposure just a little bit more. Shadows a little bit more. And there we go. That's a huge difference from where we started. That's the power of dynamic range.